Hey Sam, so in this video I'm going to talk about number 8, and I'll do the same thing I did in the last video. I'll pause when I think there's a place where you might want to do some thinking on your own, and then I'll come back and show how I finished it up. So it says here, in the constructor create an array list of square objects. So that's something you know how to do, right? In the constructor, and we're talking about the constructor for the animation class, because that's where we're going to animate the squares, right? So we could add an array list of squares here. Private array list squares, right? And we know, oh, and it says, well, we know we'd have to initialize this, right? So let's do that here. In the constructor, we're going to have to say squares equals new array list of squares. Oh. Right? And then it says, let's see, it says start them out at different positions and speeds. So, let's see. Do we have a way of setting the speed for the squares? Let's see. Yeah, so we have this x speed and y speed. Do we have some mutators for that? Let's see. Change size, change color, change position. Oh no, so we need some kind of a mutator for setting the speed, right? So they're called x speed and y speed. Let's say public void set x speed and x speed. So we need this so that we can set the speed to different things in animate, right? So we'll say this x speed equals input x speed, okay? And we need the same thing for y speed. Okay, so now we have a way of setting the speed for these guys. I think that's as much as we need. So so then what we need to do in here then is to set their position, we already have we could just use move horizontal and move vertical, right? To just set them different distances. So to do that initial part, to set things up, we're going to need to maybe do a loop. The way I would do it is try to do a for loop and add squares and see if you can put them all in different places and have them all with different speeds. Okay, so I'll let you think about that for a little bit. I'll wait for a second, but you can just go ahead and pause the video, and then I'll come back in a little bit and we'll finish it off. Okay, so we need a loop here. The two loops we've learned about are so we learned about this one, right? The for each loop. That one's not going to do us too much good at this point because we don't have any squares. yet. So we need to load in some squares. So the other kind of loop that we learned about is this guy. If I say, let's say I want to add 10 squares here. Okay, so this will let me add 10 squares, and basically I could just say right, so this will add 10 squares. The thing is that I want to give them different starting positions and starting speeds, right? So what I can do is for each one, as I'm going through the loop, I could say square, move vertical, and then what we want in order to make it different each time, like if I just said move vertical 50, well that's not gonna, then they'll all just end up, 50 units to the right of where they would have been anyway. So that's not really helping us. But if we did something like I times 50, then each time it'll go through and be someplace different, right? We could do the same thing with move horizontal. Right? Or whatever function of I that you want to stick in there. And for the speed, we could do like like I said, you can just make up any function of I that you want, any expression that has I in it that you want to use. And that should set them, forgot to import. So we gotta do import javaUtil array list. Alright, so now what do we have so far? Well, we're still not drawing these guys, right? We've created them in our constructor, but to draw them, we have to do something down here, right? So animate. What does animate do? Remember, animate does like 500 change positions, right? Animate. If you pass it a 500. Let's see, where is it? Change position. Animate. Okay, yeah, so it'll go however many jumps you put in here, it'll loop that many times and do a change position and draw. So if you have 500 jumps, it's going to go 500 times, right? So, what? So, maybe what we can do is, so we don't want to do, if we loop through the array now, okay, so now we have, so now we actually can use the, this guy to do the for each loop to loop through the squares, because now we do have our squares added. We added them in the constructor, right? And we want to do something like, but we don't want to, if we animate each one, then that means one is going to go 500 times and the other one will go 500 times and so on, right? So really what we want to do is do a bunch of change positions, have each one change position a little bit each frame, and make sure it's visible. Okay, and the way we do that is we just do one change position at a time for the whole array. So we can say here y less than 100 or something like, or 500 or whatever you want to do for your animation. But here, see what we're doing is then, oops, auto layout. See there. So now what we're doing is we're 100 times we're looking at each. We're moving each one of those 10 squares a little bit. Okay. So this will. So now what will happen when you say draw? It'll go and do the cool animation you had about the square and the triangle and the circle, and then we'll go through and loop the rest of it. So let's try it out. So you got your square. Very nicely done, by the way. Your triangle. And then your circle. And then we should have our 10 squares pop up and start moving. There they go. Okay. Another thing you could have done was, put them in a random place. Use random to place them randomly on the screen and have them move around. But you get the idea. And then, yeah, to be consistent with yours, you might want to, make them all invisible at the end. I'll let you figure out how to do that. So after this loop, you probably want to do another loop to just loop through all these guys and make them invisible. But again, like I said, you did a great job. You definitely did an A+ job, and I hope these videos help.